Now, the extent of devastation caused by the flood in Borno State is unimaginable. Now, over 20,000 hectares of farmland and crops destroyed. And when you take an ordinary look at it, it simply tells you that the produce that will come from over 20,000 hectares is gone. Now, that means also the livelihood of some people gone, and the investment, probably the loans taken by some individuals to farm, it's gone. And every now and then when we have some disaster, we have government functionaries visit and they make promises. But you see, beyond the promises, we shall begin to ask ourselves a question. What actions were taken before the flood? Who were the individuals assigned to carry out certain responsibilities before the flood? Now, because if we don't begin to do that and to make people accountable for their actions or inactions, we're never going to develop as a people. Because people now see it that, look, monies will always be voted, and when monies are voted, people are not asked questions. People are not taken into account. A lot of people have been saying that, oh, the flooding is because of the climate change. No, it is not climate change. The one in Borno is not climate change. It is caused by humans because there was a warning before them. The threat posed by Aura Dam is not new. So we've always known that Aura Dam is there, and when Aura Dam when it breaks, it's going to cause devastation. Now, what was the action taken by the state governments? What was the actions taken by the relevant governments? We also have an impending disaster that's going to come from the Lagdo Dam. That is when the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon, when that dam is open, it's going to gush out its own water. So we might still have another repeat of this extent of destruction along the channel of the Lagdo Dam also. Then the question is, every now and then we set up committees to look into it. Now, what are the reports of those committees? Who has been held accountable? Who has been punished? Now, if we don't begin to do that, I tell you, the whole disaster fund set up by the government will just be money for the boys. Now, just as we've never had a system where security votes are accounted for, have you ever seen any state government held to account for the security votes given to him? So also, the Ecological Fund. Now you saw the report from the Daily Trust where it said over 40 billion given to states this year from the Ecological Fund. Now the ones given before that, how was it spent? Who was given what? What did they do with it before releasing the new batch? In 2025, they will release another set of money again to them. But because we always see that the Ecological Fund is a fund that is not accounted for, so it becomes a slush fund. It becomes a slush fund. And you see, as a people, we must put a stop to all this. It is part of the national patrimony. It is not a Christmas gift. It's a money that is released for particular projects. Then we should go back. If X amount of money was released to X states, what have they done with it? If they have not done anything, we should hold the state government accountable. Now, if they have spent the money, we should ask who was given what and what did they do with it? Now, until we begin to have the culture of holding people accountable, the looting and the thieving of our public fund will continue. So the question is, the strategy must change. The strategy of giving out ecological fund must change. The strategy of allocating money from the trust fund must change. The strategy must not be compensating inefficiencies. And that is what the ecological fund has been doing. Compensating inefficiencies. A government is giving money probably in 2023 and has done nothing with it. Then there's a disaster in 2024. You give money to the government again. He has done nothing with it. Then 2025, you give money again. And so you are compensating inefficiency. Then I ask, what is the strategy to encourage governments to do more? How much of the ecological fund do you budget for states that have judiciously spent their money after investigation to see that they have judiciously spent the money allocated to them the previous year? What is the share of the ecological fund that goes to them. So it becomes like a culture. Nobody accounts for the money given to them the previous year. So the following year, they're encouraged not to do anything because they know that if by doing nothing, I get certain huge amount of money, why should I do something? So I should just wait for the next year when the bazaar, when we top up the bazaar again. So we must put a stop to it. And also the question of setting up a trust fund. Now, Mr. President, this trust fund, is it for the Borno disaster? Are you also going to set up another trust fund when the Lagdo Dam is open? When you have disaster in Lokoja, when you have disaster in Plateau, when you have disaster in several other states, are you going to set up trust fund? Now, we must begin to think like a government, not reacting. We should have some basic things. Then you have the NEMA, the National Emergency Management Agency. Now, how effective is NEMA? The monies NEMA manage, the resources NEMA manages. How have they judiciously used the money? So we must ask ourselves, if NEMA is not doing what it ought to do, then we should rejig NEMA, we should make it more efficient. So instead of setting up another trust fund, we should have a structure, a standing structure, a constitutional structure that is there to rise up to the occasion anytime there is disaster. Not setting up another trust fund. But you see, the Senate president was there, and I said the National Assembly will look into it when the bill, when the proposal comes in. But you see, beyond looking into it, I expect that the National Assembly will do a thorough job, not just reacting to everything the executive says. You should have think tanks in the National Assembly that are ready to help the president to think properly and to make the nation well governed. So rather than set up a trust fund with a new structure, you're going to have a chairman, you're going to have a secretary, you're going to have a team that probably will run parallel to the NEMA team. You have a team in the various states instead of duplicating functions and responsibilities. Let's for once have a structure that you don't need the president to ignite them before they move. Structures that knows their objectives, that know their responsibilities, and without the prompting of the president or whosoever, the structure jumps into action. The structure knows when there is disaster in Kano State. The structure knows when there is disaster in Borno State. The structure knows when there is disaster in Osun State. The structure knows when there is disaster in Lagos State. The structure knows when there is disaster in Enugu State. The structure knows when there is disaster in Delta State. The structure knows when there is disaster in any part of the country, whether it is flooding, whether it is fire disaster, and the structure will come into place. But you see, we must also set by this structure an accountability system. An accountability system. A punitive accountability system where people will be punished. Where people will be punished for whatever they have done wrong. And people will be compensated for whatever they have done right. This is how to build a nation. Nigeria will hail thee.